Hi, everyone. My name is Nina Goradia. I'm a Somatic Experiencing practitioner on the non-dual path. Today, I'd like to expand on a previous video I made about autism, which I'll link here. In that video, I talk about somatic principles for grounding in the body, for emotional self-regulation. But with the children and adult clients I've worked with who have autism or ADHD, what I've noticed is that oftentimes it's not enough to simply go the somatic route. There are a lot of indicators for adjusting diet. So many people may have heard that people with autism don't often tolerate gluten or dairy or corn. These are actually the big three that many people experience neuropsychiatric symptoms when they ingest them. So these are the big three that I highly recommend people to try taking out of the diet, and you can do it one at a time, kind of see if it gives you some relief. There are some people that when they eat gluten, they will start crying and they will wonder, why am I crying? I'm not even sad. And it's because the gluten is crossing the blood-brain barrier, and in dairy, it's the casein. So these are protein allergies that are causing neuropsychiatric symptoms, and it's because they're affecting the dopamine production. So I'm going to go into this in a little bit, and I want to explain this because it can be so frustrating and confusing to be like, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing the physical resourcing techniques. I'm doing the heart rate variability breathing. I'm, liberating myself by feeling through my feelings. I'm trying to have the right view. I'm trying to know who I am with self-realization, doing all these somatic techniques. And still, it's like, how come I can't get the relief I want? Or I was feeling so great, and then I ate something, and then I got a flare for 3 or 4 hours, and that flare is psychological. It can cause someone to be in anger or grief. Some people go into anger with corn. Some people go into, physical, but also mental disturbances with dairy. And so it's important to kind of pay attention to what you're eating and see if some of these symptoms correlate to that, the physiological reason, than simply trauma. And I found when we incorporate these dietary interventions with the somatic work is when we seem to get the best results in regulation. Because if something is causing inflammation of the brain and the physical nerves, how can the nervous system function optimally if we are not supporting it physiologically? So it can't help us regulate emotionally if it's physically under attack. So I'm going to share some information I learned about from a course that I took for continuing education, and it's by this family psychologist, John F. Taylor, and he's a PhD. He's been practicing over 40 years, and he's got 3 children that have ADHD. So he's got a wealth of knowledge and experience. I've actually shared in my previous video some information from him as well, but I'm going to be reading some notes from this seminar I took from him regarding specific ways we can support our friends, clients, ourselves that are dealing with some of these issues. So when we're trying to help brains function better, it's important to note a few things. People who have autism, their brains are often magnifying the information from the surface of the body, but often muting internal awareness of sensations. So that's where somatic experiencing can be so helpful to increase that internal awareness of sensations and emotions, as in that previous video I mentioned. But also this magnifying of sensory information on the surface of the body can cause one to feel overstimulated with sights and sounds, but also with texture of food. And so this can be very off-putting, especially with children in rejecting food. And this food rejection can cause malnourishment, not only of the body, but of the brain, which can perpetuate some of these neurosymptoms. And 75% to 80% of children with autism and ADHD and adults are having these digestive issues. So this malnourishment is something that we really need to be mindful of so the nervous system and brain can function optimally. So it's really important we avoid these allergens that I mentioned, the wheat, the corn, the dairy, because it's these proteins that people are allergic to. And what they will do is they will trigger the immune system to release histamine and T cells, which then go to the brain, and it impairs dopamine production. Not only does it stop the dopamine production, it also stops the production of other neurotransmitters. And this is because it releases anti-protein hormones. And the dopamine is made of protein as well. So this is what the immune system is doing with allergies. So it's really important we don't expose the body to these allergenic proteins. So this can go with foods that we're ingesting, but also with dust and whatever the person is allergic to. Allergens will make any psychiatric disorder flared or worse for 3 to 4 hours. And neurotransmitters are the key for a child or adult to be able to have any self-control, to regulate themselves, their emotions. So it's critical that we're managing this. And now it's apparent, if you didn't know before, why the diet and the allergen exposure is so important for emotional regulation. Additionally, kids with autism have a decreased ability to detox, so detoxing toxins from the brain and the body. And oftentimes there is a lack of enzymes. And so what is happening is these enzymes, which should be breaking down these toxins in the liver, can't keep up. So then those toxins go to the brain. I'm doing some research right now into B1. There's a video, I will look for it and I'll link it here, where someone talks about how taking a B1 supplement can help supplement for lack of enzymes in a way that has helped a lot of people as well. So I'll look for that and I will link it. But in autism, there is a buildup often of aluminum in the brain. And with ADHD, it's often a buildup of lead. So looking into getting rid of heavy metals is really important. Staying away from plastics and polyesters. And a lot of these can increase symptoms because some of them are estrogenic and that causes extra issues. It's really important that everyone is sleeping 9 to 10 hours a night to detox the brain. This is really important because there are ways the body can detox the brain in sleep that takes a lot longer to do during the daytime. It can do it 20 times faster at night if you're in sleep. So 9 to 10 hours a night. Exercise is important, but with aerobic exercise, it actually will decrease nutrition in the brain, especially over 45 minutes long. So 4 minutes of aerobic exercise will increase brain oxygen and decrease symptoms, neurosymptoms, psychiatric symptoms for 15 minutes. So note that you don't want to overdo the aerobic exercise. You can just do a short burst and get some oxygen to the brain, decrease symptoms, but then don't do that for a prolonged period of time where it's going to start depleting nutrition in the brain because the brain has a lot of nutrition requirements. So it's important to get vitamins and minerals daily, and you want to get the organic kind. If you can, you want to avoid petroleum products and supplements. Sometimes it's not labeled, and he has a really neat trick for this. You can preheat an oven to 450 degrees, put a pill in there for 25 minutes, and if there's black ooze or black spots, there's petroleum in the supplements. So that's really good to know. Very importantly, the brain needs water, pH of 7.0. If it's lower, it might be pulling in heavy metals. So kids need 8 ounces of water every 2 hours to prevent psychiatric problems if they have autism or ADHD. More is okay, but less is going to cause brain dehydration. But you don't need more than that unless you're feeling like you do. But we also need water to control our temperature and then to help us detox, these toxins from our brain. So for adults, it's going to be 12 ounces of water every 2 hours. We should be eating nutrient-dense foods, and he recommends a paleo diet. There's a lot less allergens with that. And he does recommend a few other things here, but I've heard of some controversy around some of them, so I'm just not going to state all of them. But he does recommend some bee products, but also royal jelly, which I've heard that sometimes people can have allergies to. He recommends AFA, blue-green algae, but then I've heard some things about that might not be for everyone. He also talks about getting omega-3s from fish oil, but then I've heard from the Ray Peat information that might not be the best thing, but he does say coconut oil is helpful to the brain. I haven't heard anything negative about that. I've been researching nutrition for 25 years now, and there's so much conflicting information out there that I just encourage everyone to do their own research, try things out for yourself. But I think the baseline recommendations here are very good. And just do your due diligence, talk with your healthcare provider. But I wanted to give some of this information in conjunction with the things that we're doing somatically so that this can help you self-regulate the best that you can. One of the greatest things that he said was to maintain the communication with your child and kind of interview them once a month, or maybe you need to do it more frequently, especially with the differences in food. Just ask them how their life is working out for them. I loved that. That touched my heart when he said that, just to be like, checking in and, seeing what they need and, especially with the food, but in general. So when you're working with children, your own, or if you see clients, doing that check-in and really learning from them what they're experiencing with some of these changes or what they're perceiving their needs are and trying to meet those, that will go a long way. So I hope this was helpful. Feel free to comment if you try any of these out, if they help. I'd love to hear about it, and I'll see you next time.